as dusk settled over Brookhaven, a city of stark contrasts where towering office buildings loomed over neighborhoods marred by years of neglect. The evening air buzzed with activity. This was a city perpetually caught between wealth and despair. Among its sprawling streets, Sarah Morton, Brookhaven's determined mayor, drove her modest sedan through the dilapidated Pine Grove neighborhood. Sarah, a resilient woman in her 70s, carried the weight of decades spent advocating for marginalized communities. Lines of wisdom and perseverance etched her face, while her unwavering spirit radiated an energy that belied her age. Tonight was no different. Sarah had left the confines of City Hall, where polished walls and formalities often created a barrier, to understand her city's challenges firsthand. Clad in jeans, a worn coat, and a scarf wrapped snugly around her neck, she navigated streets lined with crumbling homes and vacant lots, her hands steady on the wheel. Pine Grove was a shadow of its former self, its community center long abandoned, its streets dotted with flickering lampposts and graffiti-covered walls. Yet, Sarah saw beyond the decay. She saw potential, resilience, and stories waiting to be told. As she parked near the old Pine Grove Outreach building, memories flooded back. She remembered the community's vibrancy before funding cuts turned this place into a ghost of its past. Pulling out a notepad from her pocket, she began jotting observations about the broken streetlights, boarded-up houses, and littered sidewalks. She was here to gather insights without the filter of official reports, to see the unvarnished truth of her city. The streets buzzed with a cautious energy. A group of teenagers laughed and loitered near a corner store, their guarded glances following Sarah as she walked by. "Hey, what's a lady like you doing out here?" one called, his tone laced with both curiosity and suspicion. Sarah offered a small smile, replying, "Just taking a look around, seeing what can be done to help." The boy shrugged and turned away, but her presence lingered in their minds. Her observations led her deeper into Pine Grove, where shadows stretched long and the air grew colder. She paused near a particularly run-down home, its sagging porch and shattered windows whispering of better days. As she made notes about revitalization grants that could breathe life back into these streets, the sound of crunching gravel broke her focus. A police cruiser rolled to a stop beside her, its occupants eyeing her with suspicion. The driver, a middle-aged officer with a stern demeanor, rolled down the window. "Evening, ma'am. Mind telling us what you're doing out here?" he asked, his tone guarded. Sarah slipped her notepad into her pocket and replied evenly, "Just taking a walk, observing the neighborhood." His younger partner leaned forward, a smirk playing on his lips. "Not exactly the safest place for a stroll, especially for someone like you. You got ID?" Sarah's brows knitted briefly, but she kept her composure. "I don't have my ID with me, but you can confirm my identity with City Hall. I'm Sarah Morton, the mayor of Brookhaven." The officers exchanged skeptical glances. The younger one chuckled, his voice dripping with derision. "Sure you are. Hands on your head. Lady, we're taking you in for questioning." Before Sarah could respond, the officers exited the cruiser. The younger one grabbed her arm roughly, twisting it behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder as she stumbled but caught herself. "Stop resisting," the older officer barked, though Sarah had done nothing to provoke such force. The metallic clink of handcuffs snapped around her wrists as she protested calmly. "I'm not resisting. Call City Hall. They'll confirm who I am." The officers ignored her, their minds made up. Residents peered through curtained windows, their faces etched with a mix of fear and outrage. Some began stepping outside, phones in hand, recording the unfolding injustice. A murmur rippled through the small crowd. "That's Sarah Morton. She's the mayor. Why are they arresting her?" The officers' confidence wavered as the crowd's presence grew, but they remained resolute. Shoving Sarah into the back of their cruiser, she sat in the dimly lit interior, her wrists aching from the cuffs. Through the partition, she could hear the officers mocking her claim. "She really thinks she's the mayor. What a joke," the younger officer sneered. Sarah took a steadying breath, her mind racing. This was more than a personal humiliation. It was a reflection of systemic prejudice. a reality faced by countless others without the privilege of her position. The cruiser slowed as it turned down a quiet street, away from the main roads. Her heart quickened, but her resolve strengthened. She had to find a way to turn this injustice into a catalyst for change. When the car stopped, the officers dragged her out, pushing her against a cold brick wall. "Hands on the wall," the older officer ordered. The younger one patted her down roughly, his touch invasive and demeaning. "Clean," he muttered begrudgingly. Stepping back, Sarah lifted her head, her voice firm despite the humiliation. "You're doing this because of who I am and where I'm standing. This is prejudice. Plain and simple." The younger officer sneered, stepping closer. "Watch your mouth. Lady, we're the law out here, not you." Suddenly, the crowd's murmurs grew louder. More residents had gathered, their phones capturing every moment. "That's the mayor," someone shouted. "Why are you treating her like this?" The officers hesitated, their authority cracking under the weight of public scrutiny. Sarah seized the moment. Addressing the crowd, she declared, "I am Sarah Morton, your mayor. Bear witness to this injustice. This isn't just about me. It's about all of us." The officers exchanged tense glances. Finally, the older one radioed in to confirm her identity. Moments later, the dispatcher's voice crackled through. "The individual in custody is Mayor Sarah Morton." The crowd's outrage erupted. The officers' postures stiffened as they uncuffed Sarah, their faces flushed with embarrassment. A black sedan pulled up, and Deputy Mayor Robert Langston stepped out, his voice calm but commanding. "Gentlemen, release her immediately. We'll discuss this at City Hall." The officers retreated, and Sarah turned to the crowd. "Thank you for standing up tonight," she said, her voice resolute. "This is just the beginning. We have work to do." The incident became a citywide scandal, sparking demands for accountability and reform. Sarah used her platform to call for change, proposing measures to address systemic bias and establish community oversight. The road ahead would be long and fraught with resistance, but Sarah was determined. For Pine Grove, for Brookhaven, and for every citizen who had ever been silenced. She would fight for justice until it became a reality for all.